Chapter 10. The storyteller The Harp and Hound was half full that night, the kind of soft, humming crowd that made the place feel more like a living room than a bar. The fire snapped in the hearth. Someone laughed too loudly near the dartboard. Fog pressed against the windows like a curious animal trying to see what humans were up to. Tom was off that night, tucked into his usual corner of the bar with a plate of pasta and a beer. Mara was working. Finn was pretending to. Declan was actually doing his job. A few stools down, Cal and Jonah were deep in their usual argument, something about horses or the Hawthorns or each other. Their accents thickened when they got going, that Irish New England hybrid that made everything sound like a punchline. Every so often they'd lob an insult at Finn or Declan, who fired back with the same affectionate sharpness. The four of them together were a cultural event, loud, witty, cutting, and somehow tender underneath it all. Tom had only been working there a short time, but he knew Cal and Jonah well enough to read their moods. They were good men, hardworking, loyal, and because they were Irish and friends with Finn and Declan, who somehow weren't, their presence always shifted the room's center of gravity. Then the door opened, and Bob Beachum stepped inside. The conversations didn't stop, but they dipped just a hair the way a room does when someone familiar and respected walks in. Cal spotted him first. His whole face lit up. "Jesus, I should have checked the weather," he called. Jonah grinned. "Evenin', Professor." Bob smiled back, warm and genuine, the kind of smile that said he'd known these men for years. "Evening, boys," he said, giving them a small salute with 2 fingers. "You causing trouble already?" "Aye," Cal said. "I cause trouble, but I don't charge for it. It's free." Was affection in it real affection, the kind that comes from shared stories, shared drinks, shared history? The fact that Cal and Jonah worked for the Hawthorns didn't matter here. In this room, they were just part of the circle. Bob made his way to the empty stool beside Tom. "Night off?" he asked. "Trying to enjoy it," Tom said. He settled in, still smiling from the exchange with the lads. And just like that, the constellation formed. Cal and Jonah, Declan and Finn, Bob and Tom. A group with shared knowledge, shared humor, and an unspoken respect that would matter much more later. 2 couples sat nearby, locals talking quietly among themselves. "So," Bob said, easing into his seat, "I've never asked where you're from." Tom told him Rhode Island by birth, Navy bases by upbringing, Spain and Morocco by accident, Houston by retirement. He listened with that warm, attentive focus of his, the kind that made you feel like your life story was a puzzle he'd been waiting to solve. "If you don't mind my asking," he said, "what nationality are you? You could be almost anything. American Indian, Egyptian, Latin American, even Middle Eastern." "You had it right the first time," Tom said. "I'm mixed race, but legally American Indian. Narragansett and Barbadian on my father's side. Narragansett and French on my mother." Bob nodded, his big hands folding around his glass. "Narragansett," he said. "So I guess everything around here really belongs to you." He laughed softly. "This land was primarily Narragansett and Wampanoag." Tom shrugged. "I wouldn't know. I grew up everywhere except here." Bob leaned back, thoughtful. "I grew up in this town, left for Boston at 18, studied history, wrote a few books. I teach and lecture, made some documentaries. My family's been here since before it was a town." His voice had that radio announcer warmth, steady, rolling, unhurried. The couples nearby stopped pretending not to listen. Their bodies angled toward him without them noticing. Even Mara drifted closer, tray in hand, pretending to wipe the bar. "I love it when he tells stories," she whispered. Bob rested his elbows on the bar, fingers laced, eyes distant, not unfocused, but looking at something only he could see. "Take the land we're sitting on," he said. "Before the mills, before the colonists, before the church steeple, this was Narragansett and Wampanoag country, your people." Cal and Jonah, who had been mid-argument, went silent at the same moment. Jonah's mouth hung open mid-retort. Cal's hand froze around his beer. Both men turned their stools slightly, not enough to be obvious, but enough to show they were listening. "How do you mean?" Tom asked. Bob leaned back, warming to the story. "You know the treaty. The one the settlers offered the Narragansett leaders." Tom shook his head. He smiled, patient, almost gentle. "Well," he said, "they invited the leaders to a meeting, promised peace, promised trade, promised to share the land." The couples leaned in. Mara drifted closer, tray forgotten. "The leaders came," Bob continued. "They brought gifts, they brought trust, and the settlers, they locked the doors, killed them, everyone." A hush fell over the bar. Jonah exhaled sharply. "Ah, Jesus, you're jockin'." Cal shook his head slowly. "Christ above, that's a dirty business." nodded, not breaking rhythm. That was on Brixton Road, the state park trail. Those sad little markers don't say a word about the massacre. The room tightened around him. Cal and Jonah were fully turned now, elbows on the bar, eyes fixed on Bob like schoolboys listening to a fireside tale. That's why this land feels the way it does, Bob said softly. Some ghosts don't come from tragedy. They come from betrayal. He took a sip of his drink. His eyes flicked toward the dark hallway leading to the bathrooms, sharp, knowing, unsettling, then softened again. The man from the couple cleared his throat. Is that why people see things here, in town? Bob smiled. Oh, people see things for all sorts of reasons. Dave Davies, for example. Mara froze mid-pour. So you heard about Dave Davies saying he saw a shadow man? Everyone in town knows by now, Bob said. But we used to talk about shadow people at the kitchen table when I was growing up. How about your shadow man? Bob said, pointing down the hallway at place where the shadow figures was always seen. He shifted, settling into the rhythm of a man who's told this story 100 times but still respects it. Peel was about 32. In love with Molly Thatcher, the town beauty. Every man noticed her. He paused. But Tim wasn't the only one with eyes for her. John Hawthorne, yes, those Hawthornes. He looked at Cal and Jonah, your Hawthornes. Well, John Hawthorne wanted her too. Tim and Molly were in this very bar that night. Cal and Jonah exchanged a look. The Hawthorne name always did that to them when mentioned in public. Bob continued, his hands shaping the air. No one knows what started it, but an altercation broke out. Lamps broken, tables overturned, drinks spilled. A real knockdown, drag-out fight. The couple was enthralled. Mara forgot she had tables. The next day, Tim was found dead behind the bar at the river's edge, legs in the water, stabbed. And the sheriff at the time, Donnie Hawthorne. Well, you can imagine how that went. Bob's eyes flicked toward the hallway again. This time the darkness lingered. The ghost in the bar is Tim Peel, Mara asked. Some ghosts watch because they're lost, Bob said. Some watch because they're waiting, some have a story to tell. That's why I believe the one we just saw is Tim Peel, Mara shivered. He's not the only one, Bob shrugged. Maybe, but Tim's been here since I was a boy. The couple exchanged uneasy glances, then the man closest to them, Chris, cleared his throat. We have a ghost in our house. His wife Judy looked at her husband and shook her head in affirmation. Seems like it's getting worse every day. Noises, voices, things moving, things disappearing, you name it, we have experienced it. Bob turned to him with that warm, attentive expression, the one that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. Tell me, he said. Chris and Judy told their story, footsteps upstairs, a rocking chair moving on its own, a cold throughout the house, the dog growling at the air. They were constantly hearing voices. One room was filled with flies. Bob listened with the patience of a priest and the curiosity of a scientist. When they finished, he nodded thoughtfully. I know that house, he said. I can take a look if you would like, Bob said. Tom and Judy lit up, relieved, excited, a little afraid. And Tom sat there, watching Bob, feeling the pull of him, the warmth, the intelligence, the gravity, and beneath it, something else. Something Tom couldn't name yet. Something that stirred when he spoke of the dead. Something that made the ghosts listen.